Hi, good afternoon. Thanks a lot for the invitation on this workshop. I will speak about some experience that we did on aquaponics and LCA in the past. I'm currently working as I'm teaching ecology at the Faculty of Territorial Planning at IUAV University. In the past, I've been in a group that is still, and we are still collaborating, working on assessment of aquaculture sustainability from different perspectives. And one focus that we had with my friend and colleague Andrea Forchino and with Professor Roberto Pastres was about aquaponics. So I will talk about a bit about how we approach the problem in terms of methodology and bring you some results, which probably will leave more questions than answer, from 4 different systems. And then I will try to indicate, well, my ideas about future perspective on this. The first example that I bring to your attention is from a facility that we built in the vicinity of Venice. You can see on the top right corner, the city of Venice is the fish, and the red dot is where we built the facilities. It was a very low-tech facility inside the greenhouse, and it was built within a project which was financed by the European Social Fund. It was lasting 1 year, and it was possible during this project to perform some experiments on the fish rearing and lettuce production. In fact, the facility was considering as a species tench, Tinca tinca, because it was located inside the WWF oasis, and so tench was of interest for restocking, basically. So what I want to focus on is that the system is low scale, 10 square meter of grow beds, 2 cubic meters of fish tank, and there was no temperature control during winter, neither summer. We had only a few months of recordings because the project was 1 year duration. But we were able to build, let's say, the conceptual representation of the system, identifying the boundaries, defining the functional units, which was for us the lettuce, the most important production, contributing to about 73% of the total production. Here you can see the processes that we took into consideration, and I want just to point out that we didn't take into account the production of fingerlings and the seedling production. All the other inputs up to the farm gate were taken into consideration to different levels. We built then the inventory for the life cycle assessment, and this was quite easy because we built the system, and so we knew more or less all the steps that were done to bring the material over there, and all the movements that we had to do in terms of also of building the greenhouse. The methodologies in terms of impact assessment are summarized in this table, and these methodologies did not include for this first example the water scarcity. But in the other examples, I will bring you also to this indicator. We also added the cost of the system and the cumulative exergy demand. All the calculations were done in CIMAPRO, and we use EcoInvent as a database. As you see, and as was expected, because we had some screening LCA before performing the experiments, the most important terms in terms of contribution was the production phase of the plan. In fact, transportation and infrastructure and the system itself were quite low technology, and they were not very important in terms of impacts. If you look inside to the second panel down in the slide, inside the production, you can see that with exception of eutrophication, the energy consumption and the fish feed are the most important contributors for all the others categories. As far as LCC is concerned, the cost for 1 kilo of lettuce that we estimate was more than €7, and the most important voice in this budget, was the labor cost. The first question that we had was, okay, what about differences in terms of design if we consider other species? If we consider different infrastructures in terms of technology level. So we had the possibility to work with colleagues from Slovenia and colleagues from Friuli Venezia Giulia, which is a region located close to Veneto. And we realized two LCA comparing two different systems that were set up within an Interact project, which started in 2018 and was concluded 30 months after. The two systems had different levels of technology. One was more high-tech, let's say. The other one was more low-tech. And here you have a table about the features of the two different systems. Basically, they were similar in terms of surface to the previous system, but one was the one called Porcia was with controlled temperature. The other one had no control for the temperature. And they had different species. In one system, we had striped bass and tench. In the other one, we had common carp and perch. With the same type of production, we were able to compare lettuce production in both the systems. So here we had 6 months of, actually 7 months of data about the growth cycle, and it was able to assess the performance of the fish and of the lettuce in terms of growth and of production. Basically, the main features were that we had a very high cost in terms of energy consumption, and we had sometimes problems, not with lettuce, but with other crops in terms of lack of iron in the water. In this case, as you can see, the two LCA were made on the same impact categories, and what you can get is that you don't have any impact in terms of infrastructure in copper, because the system was within an existing facility, and in Porcia, you have, let's say, a more distributed types of impacts along the different categories. But the cost is rising up a lot. We have €4 in copper and more than €12 in Porcia. If you dig into the production category, the production processes, you can see that the most important in terms of contribution to the impacts is, of course, electricity for Porcia, while in copper, again, since there was a lower use of electricity, the impacts are more distributed. And at the end, we could compare the three systems. We had, of course, two systems which were low-tech and with limited use of energy, and one with more use of energy with, let's say, higher impacts, with the exception of eutrophication, where the systems were performing quite similarly. Okay, but what about the stability of the production? Because if you have only a few months and you have a low-tech system, it's okay. But then if you have to face high summer temperatures or low winter temperatures, the system is not resilient. So we wanted to compare it with a system which was in production in the longer term. And we reached out a colleague from Liège, Vincent Genot, who is working actually in the Persephone project, and he realized a system which is located inside that building that you see on the left. In this system, the nice thing is that we have a bit higher total surface for production. And the system, the most important thing, is in operation since 2019. So there are 4 years of data with 2 different types of productions. He did first tilapia, and then he switched to pike perch during this Persephone project. You can see the system here. Then if you want to know more, I'm rushing a bit, but if you want to know more about the system, I can tell you something more. And we were able to realize the LCA also in this system. Here we have a different presentation of the processes. We aggregated it differently. As you see, the main figure is that energy consumption is always the most important factor contributing to all the categories. Costs. Well, you can see it, but it's 14 euros for pike perch and almost 10 euros for tilapia. Okay, so you can add also these absolute values to the graphs that I showed you before, and have a comparison which is let's say, telling us that the systems with different levels of technology are behaving similarly, let's say. Of course, it was nice for us because our system, which was not really optimized, but was behaving similarly to a system which is stable over 4 years, which is, I think, something quite of interest. Here on the top, you can also see the different allocations in terms of products. So there is quite a range of allocation possibility of production of the system. So it's not strictly, it's not very strict in terms of ratios between fish and vegetables, which is nice. To me, the most important point was that we are still considering small or very small systems, so below 50 square meter. And this is bringing to us the question, thanks, in terms of what's going to happen when we will scale up our results. The other aspect is that we are covering, in terms of, let's say, possibility of applying LCA, all the different steps from the development and the design of the system up to the setup and the production. But probably we are really unreporting what we could do in terms of commercialization to optimize some strategies. And this is for interest within probably the discussion about including aquaponics in food planning of territories. That is something that is currently going on. So to me, the most important things to consider in these experiences that we did is that the idea of being able to compare different systems, so using the same methodology, is good, because it's not always the case that one system is the most suitable for all the seasons, let's say. Then there is a very important aspect, which is about the system stability for LCA. So having a system which is operational over a long time frame is good. We have differences between low tech and high tech, and we have to really think about that, because low tech maybe seems to be good for sustainability, but then is less resilient to seasonal perturbations. Of course, scaling needs to be considered very carefully, because we are working on small scale systems. Probably one way to extend these thoughts about sustainability of aquaponics will be to compare aquaponics with other production methods. And I know that some colleagues are already working on that, which is, I think, quite of interest. And probably to extend the set of assessment methods and or impact categories that we take into account. We think that, of course, LCA can be very useful to support the design of the system and setting up a business plan for aquaponics. So also having tools that are useful for screening LCA could be useful in this sense. And last but not the least, it will be very useful to dig a bit more in the possibilities of aquaponics to revitalize some unused buildings, and so using and greenhouses. So using also LCA to compare choices in terms of infrastructure in this sense. Thanks to you and to my colleagues that made this work possible.
Thank you very much. We have time for one quick question.
We have one in the chat from Michele Costantini. He's asking, regarding scaling, what do you think are the main obstacles to widespread implementation of large-scale systems that can compete with existing aquaculture commercial plans?
Well, it's a very difficult one, I think, but when you go to coupled systems like the one that I presented, probably I would say that skills needed, or this is at least my experience, skills needed to optimize a system are not easy to obtain. So also colleagues from Liège that did a very, very nice job. After 4 years, they really say that they are achieving a sort of optimization and of stability of their system, but they took this time. So I don't know about bigger scale systems, but I think that problems will raise to the power.
And one more by Furulunso Ewumi Aziz. Is asking if the high labor and energy cost can be in some way lowered.
If there is some solution for energy and labor. Well, for energy, I think there are ways to optimize it using renewables, and also probably finding the good place to farm the right species, let's say. But still, I feel that it will be important to have some control of the temperature, because this is something that I mean, it's too important to leave it without any control. In terms of labor, well, probably control of the farm in terms of let's say intelligent systems, and having early warning system and so on will be important. But of course, being at the farm and looking at the water and smelling the water is quite important. So there's room, of course, to improve that, not to cut the man from the presence of the man from the farm.
Thank you.